I may have been a little bit too harsh on wide receivers in the past, and I am intrigued about the possibility of Cooper Kupp.
Oh, wow.
Joel! Hey, Joel, air hug. Me and you, buddy. Me and you. Big
There
air
it is. There it is. Bring it in.
Wow.
I love it.
What led to this maybe change of mind?
Yeah, I'm not saying I was wrong. I'm just saying there may be a slim possibility that I would consider it. So that's a major announcement. Obviously. Listen, it does lie within the conversations that we've had, right? And we have even brought up, you guys have, and I think correctly so from your point of view, Stoke, like this, and I call it a middle field operator, someone that can control the middle of the field. And if you have a player that can do that, whether it's a tight end, and we've talked about those that you could possibly get in the draft where Denver is drafting, or a guy like Kupp, if you can control the middle of the field, and the defense has to be aware not only, but then also that they can't manipulate their coverage to roll over number one, then what you do is that you increase, at least from my point of view, guys, you increase the ability of the outside receivers to be effective, because what you're going to do is create more opportunities for them to work in free access coverage. When that happens, now I think that you get more easy completions. So for me, it's a middle field operator type of thing. It might be a tight end, but will a rookie really impact you right away like a Cooper Kupp would? Not really. And so this is what I would propose, is that I would be open to the conversation about trading for Cooper Kupp.
I love that, Joel. I love that. Wow. I think you're spot on there. I think you're spot on. And I also, you look at the situation and you say, okay, yeah, I know he's getting a little bit older. I think he's played 12 games the last 2 years. But I think the way that Sean Payton would use him, and you're talking about maybe 25, 30 plays at the most, and Sean's going to move them all around the football field and motion him a little bit, but also the ability to possibly add him, okay, and you're not going to give him this huge deal or anything like that, but also now that frees you up in the draft to possibly take that tight end. Now you take a step back and you say, we got our tight end of the future, and then we got Cooper Kupp here for the next 2-3 years, and now we got two guys being able to work the middle of the field that can just really help Bo Nix's development. So you go from nothing in the middle of the field to all of a sudden two really good football players. That excites me, Joel.
The other part of this, and Stoke, you would have to back me up on this, is, when you've got someone that's really good in the interior, and I'm talking about basically, think about it this way, between the numbers, outside the numbers. I am a believer that you don't pay top dollar and you don't go out and you leverage yourself for an outside the numbers player. I think that they're completely dependent. Inside the numbers players, you don't have to pay as much. So it's different. Like Kupp's not going to command some sort of huge deal, and he's also not going to be, your typical outside the numbers diva wide receiver from a chemistry standpoint in the locker room. Right. And then the other part that an inside the numbers threat or operator gives you is the ability, and this is where Sean comes in, and this is what he loves to do, the ability to run more scat protection. And when you run more scat protection, you're putting the protection in the quarterback's hands and in his mind versus having to win those matchups up front. So scat protection means that you're only blocking with the 5 offensive linemen, and then you're getting the 5 free releases out. They're not check releasing, they're free releasing. So they're not responsible for anybody in the protection. So basically the quarterback is responsible for 6 or anybody else, number 6 rusher or 7, whatever it is. And when you have a middle field operator, just based on the ratios and the numbers, it's a math equation, you have the ability to beat pressure with the ball. And rather than having to protect it up and take a shot downfield or do those things. And a guy as smart as Bo, this is why I thought Bo would be perfect for Sean Payton in the first place and why I think he had a lot of success, is that Sean likes to do that anyways. He's a scat protection guy. That's what he wants to do by his nature. And when you give him players that can operate in the middle of the field, you give him more leverage to do that out of more creative sets. And now the quarterback can protect himself rather than just relying on those guys up front to do it for you.
Joel Klatt joined us, presented by Dave & Buster's in Denver. We were looking at the possible parameters for a new Courtland Sutton deal. Basically, 3 years, $72 million. First 2 years guaranteed at about $48 million.
Ugh.
Okay. Why? Ugh.
I mean, he's an outside the numbers guy. Yeah, I just, man, that money spread around the depth of the line of scrimmage on both sides is better spent. But that's me believing a lot in Bo Nix. It really is, and you look around and it's like, what are the teams doing that are deep into the playoffs? They've got great quarterbacks. They've got quality defenses at the line of scrimmage. Obviously, the Eagles run the heck out of the ball. I just don't love the idea of spending a heavy portion of your salary cap on a guy like Courtland Sutton's a good player. He's not even a very good player. That's a conversation that I would be having, but I guess you gotta have somebody out there.
Okay.
Joel, looking at the game on Sunday, how do you see this thing breaking down? I mean, do you give? Obviously, it's a coin flip game. It's a half a point one way or the other point spread here. But do you give the Eagles a chance to knock off the Chiefs and stop the three-peat?
Yeah, if they can control the game with Saquon, I think that they've got a good shot, because then you can kind of control the terms of the game, and you can control the pace of the game in terms of how many opportunities Mahomes has. I think that they've become really explosive. Saquon is so explosive, so if you can get into a position where the Chiefs become totally one-dimensional and they're chasing you, that's obviously advantageous for the Eagles. But if you do get into that regular, NFL game where it's a point here or there, a possession here or there, how do you bet against Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes and Steve Spagnuolo for that example, for that purpose? I think that the Chiefs win. When I sit there, these games are always quarterback games, and as well as Jalen Hurts has played, you still have to bet on Patrick Mahomes. Remember now, the Super Bowl that he lost, guys, I think that they learned a lot from that Super Bowl. Remember how hard-headed they were about not running the football into that Tampa defense that was just playing safe, soft coverage, cover two, allowing the defensive front to get after it. I don't know if Philadelphia is going to be able to do that. I think that Kansas City is probably a better offense than they were even a year ago, and they're probably better suited and have learned those lessons that they didn't learn in that loss to the Brady Buccaneers. So I think Kansas City wins the game.
Joel, knowing how you feel about Tom Brady, if Kansas City wins and Mahomes becomes the first quarterback to win 3 championships in a row, does he become the GOAT?
I mean, the GOAT conversation to me is more of a cumulative. I think that he's on his way, but I would say no. I mean, Tom won 7 Super Bowls, guys. 7 Super Bowls. That's insanity. He went to 10 Super Bowls. Like, what are we doing? That's, so Patrick is on his way, and he's going to be the only guy that can even get into the conversation. But this would be another step towards that conversation. But no, he wouldn't overtake him.
Joel, CU schedule came out. What did you make of it? What do you think of it? I know it's early, but what do you think of the schedule reveal?
I thought it was favorable, to say the least. I think that it's an easier schedule than last year. Now, what do they get from their quarterback? Shedeur, he's going to be a top 2 or 3 pick, and you don't just replace that. I think Caden is a good player. I think that Juju is a really good player, and it remains to be seen what they can do at the line of scrimmage. They've got to get better up front. Shedeur made up for so many weaknesses and inefficiencies on the offensive line. So to me, even more so than the schedule they play, the schedule they play is more favorable, but they've got to figure out what they're doing at the quarterback position, and then they have to show improvement on the offensive line, which I think that they will, but that's a must.
Joel, you did a lot of Ohio State football this year. I'm curious, Chip Kelly leaving there to become the offensive coordinator of the Raiders back in the NFL. Will that be a good fit?
I think Chip is better as a coordinator than he was as a head coach, in particular in college. I think in college there's just so much that has to go with recruiting and all the ancillary things that, in his mind, he just wants to coach ball. He is really, really good at run game schematics. I think that his struggle is he leans too much on that, and it basically came down to Ryan forcing him to be aggressive late in the season, throwing the football. But having said that, I still think he's one of the better offensive coaches in football. I think it'll be a good fit. I'm really interested to see what Vegas can do with Pete Carroll. I mean, that's an aging guy. I don't know how else to say it, but we'll see how much success he can have.
Joel, any update there on Deion's contract? Has it been signed? Expectations there for Deion in that contract?
I have no expectations nor knowledge in the last few weeks. I don't know of anything new. I will say this, and I brought it up, like, he doesn't have to sign.
Right.
And I think that sticking point would just be like the CU side buyout. I'm sure that if they want to commit heavy resources toward him, that they're going to want a pretty substantial number in a buyout if he wants to leave in the future. And I'm sure that's a sticking point.
Last one for me, because we just got done talking about Chip Kelly with the Raiders. The Raiders don't have a quarterback, really, and they're unlikely to get one of the top guys unless they really pull something off, or the Raiders or Deion just comes out and says, sorry, he's only playing for this team. But Chip Kelly, Will Howard, the quarterback at Ohio State, who we just watched win the national championship. What do you think of him as a pro prospect?
Underrated.
Yeah.
Mostly because he had so much talent around him. I think when you say something like Will Howard just set the Ohio State record for completion percentage in a year, people will be like, "Oh, really? Huh? That's pretty outstanding." And he did that. I think that he played his best football late. He had an unfortunate game against Michigan. I think that he was banged up in that game, early in that game from a head injury standpoint, and that led to some of that poor play. But if you were to if you just turned on his playoff film, the Tennessee game, the Oregon game, the Texas game, and then the game against Notre Dame, you'd be like, this guy is a first-round player. So with as much football as he played, and I think experience pays off huge for quarterbacks, I think Will would be a really interesting pick. And I think he's going to be the guy in that group, the quarterback group, which I'll just tell you right now is not a very deep group and not super well thought of. I think he's going to be the guy that, as the draft approaches, will be getting more momentum than anybody else.
And, maybe look at him and the Raiders with Chip Kelly now running that offense there. We'll see. Joel, you're the best. So you get Joel's blessing.
I love it.
Ball back in the stance, knock down shots, no shanks.
Can't wait. Thanks for throwing that in there.
The key is you got to cut off, you got to abbreviate your follow through.
Yeah.
You can't put the ball back and then go to a full finish, because then you'll just get too steep. In order to keep the club shallowed out and get the good trajectory into the wind, you got to abbreviate your follow through.
Joel, I think this is it. This is it, at least for this season. We'll get you on again before the draft and everything, but want to thank you for everything you bring to us each and every week. You're awesome. Your breakdown, your analysis, your humor, your snark. We love it all, and we can't thank you enough, and we can't wait to do it all again next year.
Well, don't be sad because it's over. You guys should be thankful that it happened.
There it is. There it is.
You gotta love
the
him.
Quintessential Joel Klatt summed up right there. Thanks, pal. We'll
Love
talk
you
to
guys.
you.
Have a great day.
Joel
Bye.
Klatt, brought to us by Dave & Buster's in Denver, your ultimate destination for football all season long.
So I've been doing the show since late September, and he's been bashing receivers. And on his last day, he finally came around, just a little, not all in.
He said, may
Right.
be open to the idea.
Yes, not all in, but he's definitely open to a Cooper Kupp type of receiver, a guy that can do some outside stuff, but also be really good in the slot. So how about that?
For you.